Alright, so I'm going to give you my thoughts on Season 3 of Chucky. Season 2 I covered episode by episode, and Season 3 I decided not to, mainly because it was a big split. We had 4 episodes in October, and then we just got 4 more episodes here in April/May, and we finally got a conclusion to this story. I'm going to go over the good, the bad, and the not so good from this season. So, overall, my thoughts on the season was that it was a pretty decent season. I did like it more than season 2, and I was actually a big fan of season 2 along with season 1. But kicking it off early, positives, special effects. So in every episode of Chucky, you're going to get at least one standout awesome kill. Maybe even 2, sometimes you get about 10 kills. But the effects for this season were very, very good. A step up from previous seasons. Not that they were all bad in the last few seasons, but if you remember in season 1, there was that weird stabbing of the kid up on like the balcony, and it was atrociously bad looking. You didn't get any of this, and you got some real kind of stellar standout kills. You got the guy who gets shot in the eye, the woman who dunks her face in the boiling water. Devon Sawa gets his eyes gouged out by Chucky. There's just quite a few very, very memorable kills. You had some really, really pushing the envelope for the amount of blood used in a episode, probably, I would assume, just because of that elevator scene and then the raining blood. They had a lot of unique takes on this season when it came to the kills. So I thought those were very good. Number 2 thing that was very, very good this season was, I'm going to say, the overall acting. So Devon Sawa, obviously, he's been in every season. He dies in every season. And in this season, he actually plays 3 different roles by the time it's said and done. And he kills it in all 3 roles. He plays the president. He plays the president's double. And then he does have a cameo, Catch Me Back, in the very last episode. Which I'm going to save kind of my thoughts on the last episode to the end. Because that one is probably the most mixed controversy of the entire show based on what people have said online. But he does a great job in all of his roles. He always makes them feel different, unique. Nothing ever feels the same. Even though he looks kind of the same in most of his roles, he still brings like a different flavor to each one. Another great acting in this season was Brad Dourif. So this is the first time that we've gotten Brad Dourif on screen since Curse of Chucky. And even in that, it was very minimal. And then he was obviously in Child's Play 1, which was also minimal. This is probably the most screen time he's had in this entire Chucky universe, seasons and everything else. And I thought he killed it. So as the voice of Chucky, he does a great job. Even as the story progresses and we get different phases of Chucky, his voice changes. Just like in the second one, he had the buff Chucky, then he had the war veteran Chucky, and then he actually gets to play himself physically on there. And I thought him physically on camera was just an insanely awesome, iconic look for him. He looks like he's just having a damn blast, which explains why he came out recently and said he was retiring from acting, except for doing Chucky. You can just tell that he loves this role, and he was meant for this role. So I know that we had that remake in 2019, and I think it was, I don't even remember the guy who did the voice for that Chucky. I know he's very famous, but I'm drawing a blank right now. Anywho, but I don't think anybody can play the role of Chucky, whether it's a different guy, a different voice, a different looking doll. I just don't think anything can live up to the iconic stature that Brad Dourif has built in this role. I mean, he is Chucky. It's kind of like Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger, or Doug Bradley was Pinhead. And you've seen other people in these roles and they don't land it as well. There is no way in hell anybody is ever going to be able to reprise the role of Chucky. It is Brad Dourif, and that is it. His daughter Fiona, and what little bit of time she gets on screen, I thought she did very well. The little girl who plays Caroline, in her small spots, I thought she played the part very, very well, to get a girl who seems like she's having a good time, but also doing the maniacal thing as well, like the hidden beats and like the little side stuff, even the glances she gives at times. I thought she did very well. Devin was very bland this season. I did not really care for a whole lot going on with his character. Jake, I felt like he didn't have a whole lot going on, and then at the end, he really saved it, and his performance in episode 8 is just crazy phenomenal, and the voice that he does is, you would have assumed that it was a voiceover, not actually him, and then behind the scenes, you see it's him, and that's just crazy that he put the time and effort into that, kind of showing like he does have acting chops, and he could be doing a lot more than what he's been given. That whole episode of 8, he puts on probably the best acting performance he's done in the entire show. Lexi, she does great as always. Season 1 kind of hated her, wanted her to die. Now she's kind of the highlight of the group. And even the characters that came in besides Devin Sawa, the little boy, he did great in his role. Grant, he did very, very well in his role. And his progression and how his story goes, and you can see the changes throughout him throughout the season. The wife of the president, drawing a blank on her name right now too, the first lady, but she did very, very good. And even the prick guy who kind of helps aid this story along the whole way, he does a very good job in his role as well. So overall, the acting is very good. And even Jennifer Tilly in her spots as Tiffany Valentine in Jennifer Tilly's body, I felt like, I mean, she's always been kind of the campy, fun humor of the show, and I feel like she was in it not as much, but she did do a little bit of campiness. I don't think it was as over the top as we've seen in the past. I thought they dialed it back a little bit, and I liked everything that was going on with her and her story. I felt like it was very fitting. It was just the right amount of camp slash just scariness to her. I thought she did a great job. And then the last person I'm going to bring up, because he had a very small role, is Andy Barclay. Yeah, Andy Barclay is in a dream sequence where he gets murdered, brutally murdered by Chucky. But it's just a dream sequence. So he never really was in this season at all. And that kind of baffled me, because I thought he would be coming back at some point. But maybe with how the ending went up, that it's going to be a future role for him. All right. So getting into the mixed bag. So I really was digging this season throughout most of it. And the ending is kind of where it's going to hit the mixed bag, because of how everything kind of turned up and wrapped up, in a sense. So we're following Chucky. He ends up at the president's, the White House. And he decides that he needs to kill a bunch of people in the White House to make Damballa happy, because as we find out, thanks to Catholicism in season 2, he no longer is helping Chucky anymore. That's Damballa. So he's actually aging and facing his real mortality. And the whole season is him trying to appease Damballa by killing people, killing lots and lots of people, brutally murdering some people, just having a straight up blast, doing his killing. But then you see, as he continues to age and weather, that he just doesn't have his heart in it anymore. It's not fun anymore doing the killings like it used to be, and it's just not bringing the same flavor that it did before for him. And we see him age and age and age. And this was a very fresh, unique idea on Chucky. He's never really faced his mortality. We've even heard him say, you can kill me, I always come back, even though dying is such a bitch. But in this one, he finds out that he really is going to not come back. This is it. He's done. It's over. Unless he can get it fixed. And that was a very unique take on it, and it was very kind of heartwarming. I know halfway through the season in my head, I was like, damn, am I ready for Chucky to fucking go? I don't think I am. Like, I like the damn guy too much. But I had a feeling like this was not going to be the end. And we did get some like really weird sequences where he goes and visits a doctor who specializes in people who worship Damballa. And that's where he finds out that he is dying. And we do get a lot of cool versions of Chucky. I mean, you get regular Chucky. You get Chucky who's kind of balding and losing his hair. You get really old man Chucky. It's a very unique take, and I did like that part of it. And then we kind of go into the spirit realm, which was mixed for me. I liked seeing Brad Dourif again on screen, but I would say that was the best part of the entire spirit world stuff that we saw. Other than that, it was just like re-showing us the kills that we had seen all season, which I don't, whatever. And then we did get some historical figures like Chucky walking by Mr. Abraham Lincoln. So I just felt like that was kind of lackluster. I did like some of the paranormal stuff they did, and I think it was episode 7. I just like that type of stuff myself generally, so that was pretty good. But getting down to the brass tacks of it all is my final thoughts on the season. All pretty much hinder on episode 8, Final Destination. And this episode started like it might be the best episode in the entire Chucky series. And it lasts that whole entire way until you get to like the last 13 minutes. And that's where it goes off the frickin' rails. And it really leaves me wondering whether or not I was a fan of this season because of how it wrapped up. So Tiffany's going to get the lethal injection and Jake is going to have to die so that he can go into the spirit realm, but they're going to have stuff to pull him out. And that's how season episode 7 ends. And 8 starts off with Tiffany ending up breaking out of jail. We get a prison break. It's a great sequence. It's a lot of fun. And then we leave her and we go then see Jake in the spirit world. And Jake in the spirit world brings a whole lot of flavor to it because we then see him interact with his father who died. And they have a very like mean / emotional moment. And it's a very well done moment. Like the acting in that scene is just phenomenal of Jake finally forgiving his father for understanding like everything that you did to me that I hated you for. I really didn't have perspective of what was going on. So it seemed like they resolved it really well. And then we see Chucky take Jake to a little movie theater, and there's a bunch of Chuckies in there. You got Chucky as a kid, a teenager, a young man, old man Chucky. You have the good Chucky doll, the buff Chucky doll, the war veteran Chucky doll, and they're all watching clips, and you see scenes from the original Child's Play, other Chucky movies, a bunch of kills and scenes from the Chucky seasons, and this felt like it was a wrap up to a whole finale for a series. And I was kind of confused. Is this going to be the end? Is this going to be the last episode of Chucky that we get? But as it plays on, there's a whole big prank thing like that, and we do get finally, Chucky puts himself in Jake's body without the others knowing. So when they pull Jake out of being dead, it's actually Chucky. And we do get some fun lines in there, and you get Jake talking as Chucky, and his voice as Chucky is just phenomenal. And that's why I say, like, this episode saved his character when it came to the season, because overall, it was just him and Devin kind of sneaking away so that they could try to have sex. And then once they did, it was like, maybe we should get away from this. No, we got to help our friend. But there wasn't like a whole lot of story arc or anything for either one of them. Like, Lexi's at least trying to get Grant to get her into the White House because she needs to talk to Chucky to find her sister. Then she falls in love with this Grant guy when she was just trying to use him. There's like a whole story arc for Lexi. There was like nothing for Jake and Devin. But this last episode really saved everything for Jake. And his acting was phenomenal, and even him getting the voice of Chucky down was just insanely good. But then we get to the scene where they're going to go to this guy's house, and that's because Jake said that's where Lexi is, and it turns out that is where Lexi is. But that's also where the original good guy doll was created, and we get the prototype. And Caroline actually uses the Voodoo for Dummies book to get Chucky's soul out of Jake, but into the new, the original Chucky doll, which looks exactly like the original Chucky doll from Child's Play 1. And somehow Jake magically comes from the spirit realm back into his own body. That part's not really explained very well of how that works in that way when you've left the White House where he was at when they had separated him from his body. It's part of that whole, you just got to go with the flow. And they have come up with this bright plan, and you see the kids staring at what's going to happen, and you don't see it. And then you see Tiffany pull up, and she's staring at this same thing, but you don't see it. And then Tiffany decides she's going to go into a doll again, because this guy luckily also created her doll. So we see that doll appear, and then we see Caroline driving off in Tiffany's vehicle with Chucky and Tiffany making out in the back seat. Happily ever after, I guess. Is what it is. It makes sense. Tiffany can't be in the Jennifer Tilly body anymore because obviously she's escaped prison and they're going to be looking for her. If she wants to survive, she can't do that. But then Nika goes into the house because she was following Tiffany but doesn't follow Tiffany when she leaves with Chucky and Caroline. Instead, she goes in the house. Makes no sense to me, but hey, here we are. And we finally get to see what happened. And we see Jake, Lexi, and Devin as marionette dolls. Marionette dolls. So in this show, movies, series, we had Chucky in multiple different awesome looking outfits throughout the entire seasons and the movies. We saw Tiffany in lots of doll looking things between the original bride and the Bride of Chucky, black lipstick, everything else. Great looking doll. Even Glenda doll. Kind of doofy, but still was a decent looking doll. These marionette dolls are the most hideous, ridiculous, stupid looking dolls I think I have ever seen in horror. And I don't mean that as an understatement. I mean, these things are just so god awful. And I know that I watched the special features and they only had 2 weeks to get this prepared. And the damn dolls that they show you look better than the dolls that you see in this episode because they have CGI'd their faces over top of these doll faces so that they can be screaming at Nika to look behind her. And it just looks awful. Just awful. I don't know what they were thinking. I feel like this was a terrible direction. He said he wanted to have kids in the house. Why couldn't you make them normal sized dolls? Like, they don't have to be human sized, but they could be the same size as Chucky and Tiffany and Glenn. And then the episode, we hear Nika scream. And then it cuts to Chucky sitting at the White House pleading for a 4th term. So, overall, this season was very good. Like, I liked everything about this season. And then that last 10 minutes of the finale really just threw me for a loop because I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't understand why, even if you're going to put them in the dolls, which is fine, because then you could have dolls fighting dolls. Hilarious. It'll be fun. You could do some really cool, unique shit with that. But they're so god-awful looking. It makes no sense. That it makes me question, like, where the frig are you going to go from here? Like, does somebody have to save these kids and learn voodoo to remove them from the bodies into the kids' bodies? And where the hell did the kids' bodies go? Did they all drag them off with Chucky and Tiffany being in their little doll forms and hide their bodies somewhere so someone can at least put them back in their bodies? Is it going to be Andy and Kyle coming back to save them? Are we going to get a whole new family? Is Grant and his family going to help save them? At this point, who knows? I know season 4 isn't a definite, and Don Mancini said he's working on a movie, but my history with Chucky, as I've said on this channel before many times, is I was literally born on the day that Child's Play came out. And on the headstone of Charles Lee Ray, that was the day that he supposedly died, which means that's the day he put his soul into a good guy doll. On the exact day I was born, and I don't know why, but ever since I was about 4 to 5 years old, I have loved watching Chucky. I have watched every single movie, every single season, every single episode. I do not miss a moment of Chucky. So whatever the hell they cook up, I will be there to watch it because I just like this character way too much. I mean, for God's sakes, I got him on a candle. I got him on shirts. I got him on a cup. I had my buddy paint a damn picture of Chucky. I have other pictures of Chucky. He's on this damn poster here behind me. Like, Chucky is by far my favorite horror killer out of everybody. So I will be there to watch it, and I will review it for you guys. But I just am so baffled at why the hell they would do this. I mean, Nika, they took her arms and legs, and they made her pretty much freaking useless and barely put her on camera. And now these three, they stick them in these marionette dolls, which, if you didn't have much for them, why not let them die? Like, why can't Chucky kill them? Why put him in a doll? It's almost like Don Mancini's just having fun doing whatever the fuck he wants and hoping that it sticks and lands. And this season for me was a success all the way up until that. Like, I would have said this was on par with season 1. Is how much I enjoyed this season. And that ending just really left me feeling kind of crappy about the whole thing. So those are my thoughts on season 3 of Chucky. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this with anybody else who might want to see it. And until the next one, guys, rest in peace.